OS expertise. I think the Cisco California was trying to eliminate that division and find it nearly impossible to eliminate it over the years in Ridgefield because of the expertise that exists. From a security perspective, I think it's important to consider a couple things. One is you have to design in security from day one. So it can't be a design afterthought. And then security also, often the design team moves on to another design when they ship a product. So is security still considered after you ship? Is another big question mark that I've seen a lot of companies struggle with. And having the right people and the right contracts in place to manage security after the fact, after it ships. So.
You know, one thing I'll add is I know at least 3 individuals personally who have moved to Northeast Ohio from California, other locations, and they absolutely love living here. The cost of living is very affordable. There's so many resources in Northeast Ohio that other people, people don't really consider. Northeast Ohio as a suburban area, Cleveland, Akron, Canton is very large. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of industries. It's very affordable. I think people don't really know what's here and what's available. Not to mention, and this was mentioned earlier, the universities that are available in the area. So there's a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, a lot of diverse talent available. And so it's really a great place to start up and bring people in as well.
I would just add that beyond the technical and the cost advantages of the Midwest, everybody's nice here. It's really easy to do business with us, right? Let's focus on that.
Hi, my name is Brent. I'm with Exodus Integrity Services, and this is a question for Joe. Sorry, got to give the microphone back. So you talked a lot about, cloud providers. Moving things in and out of the cloud is not cheap. So how do you determine whether or not you should have something in the cloud or you should have something more private, like building out your own data center, or maybe using a colo facility? How do you determine that?
That's an excellent question, and I hate to say it depends, but I mean it's sort of part of the problem. So I think it has a lot to do with the data that you have. It's expensive to move stuff to a cloud facility, but maybe not as expensive as you think it might be, depending on how you do it. There are ways to move a lot of data for relatively low money if you do it in certain ways. However, if you have information that is really, really critical, or maybe it's not really huge, doing something, say, on-premise could make a lot of sense. You still have to account for all the things that we talked about, security and whatnot. And volume is the other piece of that. So take an example, the elevator. If they said, okay, well, we want to store all of this data that we collect locally on site. We have power, we don't have to run on batteries, and we'll collect it periodically. Maybe as maintenance crew comes by, they'll download it. Totally reasonable solution to the problem. You don't have to transmit all of that information. But if you wanted that information available at a moment's notice, that would preclude that sort of thing. So it has to do a lot with cost, what you want to do with that information, and maybe if that information is very, very critical, and you absolutely can't. Now, I will attest that if you run infrastructure at Amazon, you can make it very, very, very secure. There is no reason to say a cloud provider is, for some reason, an insecure place. I mean, if you're using a major cloud provider and you're doing it the right way, you can make that more secure than any data center you're going to host yourself. But so it depends, but those are some of the reasons you might want to do that.
I'll add, this goes back to something I said earlier. If you took a video of me and you took videos of everybody, and in fact had a video camera on everybody in this room, the amount of data you'd be moving to the cloud or pulling out of the cloud when you want to do an analytic on it is enormous, and that's going to be costly, very, very costly. On the other hand, if you summarize what everybody said in this room in a digital form that was concise, now you can probably collect all of that information and move it in and out of the cloud easily and access it easily, and the amount of storage and the cost of moving in and out of the cloud go significantly down. So depends on what you want to process and where you want to process it and what you're willing to forego by processing or reducing that information content at the edge and only sending up, smaller amounts.
This is a conversation that I've actually had with a colleague this week, and we were talking about doing processing on the device versus doing processing in the cloud, and what are the trade-offs there. And some of the things that we were talking about was the ability to change our processing algorithm whenever we want. It's much easier to update something in a hosted environment versus on a device. And whether that was important for what we were trying to do in that, I don't think we came to a conclusion of that. This is sort of somewhere in between that. The other part of that is how often do you want to or can update those devices? Can elevator software be updated every day, once a month? Do we, for security reasons, want to do that in person? How does that work? So where you do the processing, oftentimes it's not just moving the data, but how do you update that information? How frequently do you want to update that information? And that goes back to the fundamental use case you're trying to solve as well.
All right. My name is Brendan Bogenware. I run a consultancy called Blockside. I see a lot of talk about security and robustness, but I can't help but notice that using memory-safe programming languages wasn't on the list. Do you guys see using C and C++ or other memory-unsafe languages as a liability?
Absolutely. And a lot of the things we've been looking at internally, especially for critical core competency in code, we're looking at memory safe as well as things like Rust and Go, which will be much more secure, designed into the language, rather than trying to do security as an afterthought or using something like C, which is just inherently not going to have that level of security. So absolutely, and anybody else.
So that concludes what we're talking about today. We appreciate your time. I thank this wonderful panel. And by the way, just so you know, these people all have excellent ability to do multiple different areas in the IoT world. They are experts in multiple different disciplines, where I am not. Okay, just so you know, this is not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is in finding experts. So, if you want to get something done, you want to get someone who knows where to go. And that's exactly what I do. So, thank you very much for your day, and here's the panel.